Welcome, everyone, to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because we are unpacking something that literally shapes the modern world. We're setting the stage for an epic head-to-head exploration of two of the most influential political frameworks on the planet, the British and the American systems. We're going to look right under the hood at the raw mechanics of where power actually lives. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the basics of bicameralism. Second, Parliament versus Congress. Third, the Prime Minister versus the President. And finally, the ultimate system comparison. All right, Section 1, the basics of bicameralism, or how two distinct houses make up one single legislature. So, a bicameral legislature simply means a lawmaking body that's split into two distinct houses. Usually you've got a lower house and an upper house. But, why split it up at all? Why not just have one big room of people hashing out the rules? Well, it is highly intentional. It divides power. It prevents any single group or faction from just totally dominating the lawmaking process. By forcing new laws to pass through two completely distinct bodies, you're building a system of checks and balances right into the very architecture of the government itself. But like anything in life, every system has its trade-offs. The advantages? They're immense. You get careful lawmaking, robust checks and balances, wildly diverse representation, and overall stability. But the downsides are just as real: major legislative delay and definitely higher costs. And this brilliantly illustrates a core irony of government design. The very features that ensure careful scrutiny and protect minority voices are exactly what cause legislative gridlock and cost more money. Honestly, you just can't have that rock-solid stability without the slowdown. Moving right along to Section 2, Parliament versus Congress. It's time for the lawmakers to go head-to-head. Let's look first at the British Parliament. Think of it like a three-part machine. You've got the monarch, the House of Commons, and the House of Lords. The House of Commons, that is the beating heart of the whole operation. It's directly elected, and crucially, it controls the finances and the government itself. Sitting above them is the House of Lords, which steps in to provide expert scrutiny rather than day-to-day governing. But the magic key here is parliamentary sovereignty. Parliament is literally the supreme legal authority in the UK. It perfectly blends deep historical tradition with the immense practical power of the elected Commons. Now, let's jump across the Atlantic to the American Congress. Notice the immediate structural difference here. Congress is established by Article 1 of the Constitution. So unlike the evolving, unwritten sovereignty of the UK Parliament, Congress is rooted in very rigid, written boundaries. Its job description is explicitly spelled out: make laws, control finance, conduct oversight, and handle the incredibly heavy responsibilities of impeachment and constitutional amendments. Now, I want to focus on a massive number for just a second: 435. That is the number of members in the U.S. House of Representatives. That immense scale ensures highly localized representation for the people. But here's the catch: they serve rapid two-year terms. So they are constantly cycling and essentially always campaigning. This makes them incredibly responsive to the immediate, shifting moods of their voters. In sharp contrast to that, look at the Senate, just 100 members. That's exactly 2 senators per state, totally regardless of population size. And unlike that chaotic 2-year sprint in the House, these 100 members serve much longer, 6-year terms. The Senate is famously designed to be the cooling saucer to the House's hot teacup. It provides long-term stability and a much more deliberate pace to counter the rapid-fire cycles of the lower house. So let's put these two lower houses side by side. Both the House of Commons and the U.S. House of Representatives are incredibly powerful. They're both directly elected, and they both control the absolutely crucial power of the national purse. But look at their frameworks. The House of Commons actually controls the government from within a sovereign parliament. The U.S. House, on the other hand, operates completely separately from the executive branch. They have similar jobs, for sure, but they exist in entirely different constitutional universes. All right, Section 3. Prime Minister versus President. Let's see how the executives go head-to-head. Looking at the British executive, we start with the monarch, who serves as the constitutional head of state, acting primarily on ministerial advice. Then we have the Prime Minister, the head of government. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is how power in the UK is totally interwoven. The Prime Minister isn't elected separately like a president is. No, they're the leader of the majority party in the House of Commons. They direct policy and share the cabinet, all while remaining a sitting member of the legislature. The executive and the legislature are literally braided together. Now contrast that tightly interwoven power with the American executive under Article 2 of the Constitution. Here, the president is both the head of state and the head of government, all rolled into one single person. They are simultaneously the ceremonial figurehead and the active chief executive. Below them is the vice president, who presides over the Senate, and a cabinet that exists purely to advise. Unlike the UK, the US president does absolutely not sit in the legislature. The branches are kept strictly separate. And this brings us to a massively crucial structural difference. The UK operates what's called a dual executive. The power and duties are split right down the middle. The monarch handles the ceremonial representation of the state, while the prime minister rolls up their sleeves and handles the gritty day-to-day politics. But the US operates a single executive. All of that power, the ceremonial prestige, and the political battle readiness is completely consolidated into one singular office. So looking at these vastly different structures, I want you to pause for a second and just consider which system truly holds power accountable. Is it the British system, where the prime minister actually has to face their peers in parliament and answer tough questions every single week? Or is it the American system, where the president is structurally isolated but checked constantly by an entirely separate branch of government? It is a fascinating debate, isn't it?
This brings us to Section 4, the ultimate system comparison. Let's bring it all together.
Let's synthesize all of this. We can clearly see the UK's parliamentary system stacked up against the US's presidential system. We've got the dual executive of the UK against the single executive of the US. But the real magic happens in how these branches actually interact with each other. So the crucial point is this. In the UK, the executive is fundamentally responsible to Parliament. They are a part of it. In the US, the executive is deliberately and entirely separate from Congress. Just to really hammer home the ultimate takeaway of this explainer. In Britain, the executive is responsible to Parliament. In the United States, the executive is entirely separate from Congress. The British prioritized an integrated, highly efficient pipeline of power where the majority rules. The Americans, however, prioritized a fragmented, highly scrutinized structure where ambition is forced to counteract ambition. Knowing the trade-offs we've mapped out today between the integrated, rapid efficiency of the British system and the strict, deliberate separation of powers in the American system, which one ultimately serves its people better? It's an incredible question, and one that political scientists are still arguing over today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this comparison helped clarify these massive ideas, and I can't wait for you to take this knowledge and keep exploring.